Okay, so here's some data that I created or stole. I don't remember where I got it from. But what I did is, so it's a model of cars and I got a bunch of variables. And suppose I wanted to do a sample of cars and come up with their average, let's see, I guess their average miles per gallon. Okay, this is obviously all before hybrid engines and electric engines. So, but suppose I wanted, and I suppose I wanted to do a stratified random sample, and my data is a little limited here. Suppose I want to sample one from every country. It's kind of lame doing it that way, but one from every country because I've only got one France for car from France. Okay, so that's the one that's going to get selected. So that would be 133. Now for the other ones, like Germany, I've got four cars. So when you do a random sample, and remember, I'm going to select one car from each. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to number each of those cars in Germany, and then I'm going to do a random sample of those cars. So I'm here. Less a minute. Let me get a random sample generator here. Actually, I think we can do it here. Let's go to random dot. I was going to pull up my graphing calculator, but this random .org is a great website, and we're going to do numbers, and we want to do an integer generator, and I'm going to select now. There's only four cars, and how many cars were there in France? There are four cars in France, so I want to pick one of them. So four, no, generate one random number, and between 1 and 4. So, and we're going to do one column, and then we'll go. And what this is going to do, this is going to random selection of those four numbers and 3. So I'm going to pick car 3. Now, there is no bias in my judgment, so I know it's a random sample. So car number 3, and what am I doing in miles per gallon? And why did I type 133 horsepower? I'm probably saying, damn, what the heck? So I'm going to copy and paste the miles per gallon and paste that where I should have written the 133. And then now I selected car 3, so the VW Rabbit. Yes, so we're going to grab that car as a sample. And then I've only got one car from Italy in this group, so I'm going to do that one, and so on and so forth. I'm kind of keep going because I want you to see that how I have the groups of a country, but I got to do a random sample in each group. So what I'm going to do here is be really lazy and get a number. I want to number these numbers, so number these cars. So spreadsheet lets me do that pretty easy. It's one here. Let me fill that down to get all those. Whoops, what the heck, Dan? Equals, I'm going to take that number and add 1 to it. I'm not expecting to do this with a spreadsheet, folks. It's just, I'm trying to make it easy so I can get through them all. Let's see, all those cars are from Japan. Okay, so now I'm going to select one car from those 6. Let's go back to this. I want one number, and I have 1 through 6 now, and I want one number. Get it? So this is telling me to pick car number 1. How about that? Doesn't seem very random, but it actually is because I didn't let any kind of bias. Oh, Datsun. Do they still make Datsuns? Here, I'm going to get lazy and just put that right there. And then Sweden, there's 2 cars from Sweden. So I mean, yeah, 1 and 2. I guess you should do that, but there's only 2 cars from Sweden. Okay, I'm almost done with this sample. Let's go to random.org and we'll go back, and I know, why do it, Dan? All right, we could just fake it and do it, but this way I'm not cheating. I have car number 2. So come back here, and car number 2 for the Swedish cars was 17. Also Volvo. They're still making Volvos. They aren't making Saabs anymore, are they? Now I get all these U.S. cars, and here's the nice thing. I'm going to grab these and fill those down. And I have got, what? Oh, that didn't work. Where's my top US car? Let's fill that down and see if this works better. I did something wrong. here we go. So I've got 16 US cars. So I wanted to pick one of the 16 cars. So go back, and I got 116. I want one number. Car number one, how about that? So car number one has a miles per gallon of 18.1. And we had 6 groups. There's the 6 numbers because I'm only selecting one from each group, right? That's kind of lame in itself. But now I've got a sample of 6 cars to do 6 groups, and that I could do the average of those. That would be, and that's my this is my stratified random sample because I broke the data up into groups by country in this case, and then selected a sample of one from each group, and that gave me 6 cards. Now, if I want to do something else, I mean, suppose I wanted to see if there's a difference between automatic and manual transmissions. Well, this is binary. There's only 2 types in this data. So if I want to do a sample of 6, I would probably want to do a 3 out of one, 3 out of the other. Then we want to be representative of the sample, but that's another whole thing. Okay, so that is this stratified random sample. Break them into groups, conduct a random sample, simple random sample inside of each group. Now, what about if we wanted to do a cluster sample here? So with a cluster sample, what you do is you break them up into groups. I mean, you have the groups, and then you sample everything inside that group. So I've got 6 different countries. If I wanted to come up with this is where my data. This is where this kind of lame with this data. What I'd probably do is I'd number the 6 countries, and let's say I wanted to pick. I wanted to pick. I don't know. I wanted to pick 2 countries and average their cars and see if it works. I mean, it's going to give us bad data, but that's what you do. What you do is, so I've got 6 countries here, right? So I want to randomly pick 2 numbers. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to generate 2 numbers because I want to pick 2 countries and sample everything in there. And I want to go from 1 to 6, and I don't know if this is going to give me repeats. Let's see if it does it. So this tells me to sample country 3 and country 1. So if I go back here, country 3 was Italy. So there was only 1 car in Italy. So there'd be the 37.3. And then country number, what was the other country? Country 1. Oh, yeah, so here we go. France only had 1 car also. So we just average those 2 numbers, and that would be our guess of what the mileage is, the average mileage is. See how I measured everything? If I had picked the U.S. as one of my countries, I would have averaged all those. Okay. So that's a cluster sample. Is the randomness comes in because you're randomly picking the group you're going to use, and then you sample. You use the data in that entire group. You don't have to do the random sample. The place, and maybe I have this in another video, the place that I used cluster samples is as a forestry major. We had to do a summer camp, and it was the UVM has a research force out in Jericho. And what we do is we were assigned on my team. I don't remember, there were 6 people. I don't remember, it was only 4 people. And we were assigned a part of the forest, and we had to come up with a species map. And what we do is we had the person said, do a random sample. And what they had us do is this is back in the early 1980s. In fact, I think it was the summer of '80. And what they'd have us do is take the topo map, shut our eyes, drop a pencil on the map, and that was then what we'd do is we'd go find that place, do a 6-foot circle, sample every species inside that 6-foot circle. I don't remember how many circles they had us do. They had us do a couple, and then we did calculations on that. So that was my experience with the cluster sample. I hope this helps answer your question about the difference between stratified random sample and a cluster sample, and kind of how you can sample them. Okay, I'm not going to have you folks doing much with those, but it's good to know, where they're coming from. Okay, give me a yell if you still need help. Stop share, end the meeting.